everyone, welcome back to Lisa Study Guides. Before we get started, I just wanted to make a massive shout out to Mark Yin, who has written up this particular video. He's one of my amazing tutors on my Lisa Study Guides private tutoring team, and he's created a whole bunch of resources, blogs and videos alike in order to help you guys and ensure that you feel supported in your English studies. So if you wanted to find more English resources, then I highly encourage you to head over to my website vcstudyguides.com to find more resources to help you in your studies. Today's topic focuses mainly on one theme, but it's the most major theme in the entire Growing Up Asian in Australia anthology. So the main takeaway idea of this particular video is to look at how to unpack one central idea in detail, while also bringing in other messages and themes along the way. Just because the topic focuses on one theme doesn't mean that your discussion needs to be limited to only that one theme. So what's in an anthology? Short answer, short stories. Long answer, a collection of distinct literary works by a number of different authors about a similar subject matter. And the title more or less explains itself. The authors have in common an understanding of what it's like to grow up Asian in Australia. The anthology was edited by Alice Pong and spawned several other books, including Growing Up African in Australia and Growing Up Queer in Australia. In Growing Up Asian, the stories are also categorized into different areas of focus, including parents, friends, and adolescents. The essay topic we'll be looking at today is short and sweet. To belong is to sacrifice. Discuss. The key terms are evidently to belong and to sacrifice. So these are the words and definitions we'll have to interrogate. Belonging is a feeling of being accepted by someone or being a member of something. So we'd have to ask who is doing the accepting and what are the writers seeking to be members of. On the other hand, sacrifice is loss. It's giving something up. It's implied that seeking belonging means you may have to navigate compromises to what you have, how you live, or maybe who you are. Have a think about what sacrifices are made by whom and why. With that in mind, let's brainstorm a contention. We usually want to avoid going fully agree or fully disagree to create a bit more grit for the essay. And in this case, the prompt is pretty deterministic or absolute. It's saying that belonging is all about sacrifice. I'd probably argue that belonging is sometimes about sacrifice. And for migrant children, they often give up some of their culture or heritage for Western lifestyle or values. That being said, belonging in these cases is probably more about synthesis than sacrifice. It's about being able to negotiate and bring heritage into increasingly Australian ways of life. This is where the brainstorming section of writing a killer essay is where my think and execute strategy comes in. If you haven't heard of it before, essentially it's a method of essay writing that emphasizes the importance of really thinking about all aspects of a prompt and exploring all the different avenues you go down. To be able to execute a well-reasoned, coherent, and articulate essay that contains enough nitty-gritty analysis, you have to do enough thinking to get some meat on the essay skeleton, so to speak. In paragraphs, we could start by looking at some of the sacrifices people make in order to belong. The poem, Be Good, Little Migrants, has more of a cynical take on this, suggesting that migrant groups are expected to sacrifice economic mobility and even personal dignity in order to gain favour with locals. Give us your faithful service. Display your gratitude, but don't be heard. Don't be seen. Economic sacrifices are seen across many stories, from the working class, decent enough income, in family life, to the failing business in ABC's supermarket. Other forms of sacrifice might be less material. For example, Benjamin Law's sacrifice of his Mariah Carey cassettes in an attempt to fit in at school from the story Towards Manhood. This example is interesting because it isn't a cultural sacrifice, but a gendered one. It's a good reminder that identity is always multi-layered. For migrant children though, the sacrifices usually revolve around their race and culture. Diana Nguyen, for example, notes language as a key sacrifice. She quits Vietnamese school because she didn't feel like she belonged with the grade 1s in her class, and her ultimate lack of interest in learning Vietnamese created a lasting barrier between her mother and her. In Sunil Badami's story, Sticks and Stones and Such Like, The sacrifice is his name, as he angelicalizes it to kneel. When his mother finds out, she spat my unreal name out like something bitter and stringy, too difficult to swallow. The common denominator here is that Asians growing up in Australia often have to navigate sacrificing some of their heritage in order to belong to Western society. However, the challenges faced by the Asian diaspora growing up abroad are more complex and more nuanced than just sacrifice. More often than not, they're required to synthesize a third culture identity that balances their heritage with Western values and lifestyles. Diana Nguyen goes on to discuss her career trajectory in becoming a working actor in Melbourne's entertainment industry, carving out a new path for herself in spite of her parents' disapproval, and going on to represent a new generation of Asian Australians in the media. The story, Waylay and Me, also points to the shifting demographic in Australia, as Guvernal and her best friend stave off a racist primary school bully, only to see their home change for the better as they grew up, with new restaurants from their home cuisines opening up. At the same time, they'd become what they thought they could never be, Australian, describing a way of life in Canberra that is unmistakably Australian. So, belonging isn't necessarily all about sacrifice. It doesn't mean you can't pursue your passions or become Australian. Sure, sometimes sacrifice is necessary, but third culture kids synthesize conflicting identities in order to belong. Having arrived at the conclusion, let's take another look at the takeaway message. Being able to bring other themes into an essay topic that only really raises one theme. To answer this topic fully, a good essay wouldn't just discuss belonging and sacrifice, but it would also bring in discussion family, friends, careers, cultures, just to name a few. Hopefully this is something that you can translate into your future essays. I hope that this was helpful for you. If you've got any questions or have any feedback, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comment section below. See you guys next time. Bye!